The line outside the little red food truck was longer than usual that morning. The air smelled of fresh coffee, sizzling eggs, and warm bread, and the sound of traffic mixed with the chatter of customers. Among them stood a young woman with tired eyes and messy hair tucked into a cheap baseball cap. Her name was Elena. She wasn't just serving from the truck, she owned it. Every morning at sunrise, she pulled up to her spot on the busy downtown street, trying to keep her tiny dream alive. Elena had lost almost everything 2 years ago when her father passed away, leaving behind debts she never knew existed. College had slipped away from her, her apartment gone, and her friends had scattered in their own busy lives. She had just her food truck, an old rusted van her father once used for flea markets. She had converted it into a kitchen on wheels, scraping by on little sleep and a lot of faith. That morning, though, she was too distracted to notice the man in the expensive suit waiting patiently in her line. He looked out of place, tall, sharp jawline, broad shoulders, wearing a tailored black suit that probably cost more than her whole truck. A luxury watch glinted under the city sun. He wasn't tapping his foot impatiently like most wealthy customers she occasionally served. Instead, he just stared at her with an intensity she didn't understand. When his turn finally came, Elena didn't even look up. She was busy flipping eggs and scribbling orders. "Next," she said flatly. The man stepped forward. His voice was calm, low, familiar. "Still remember me?" Elena froze. Her hand trembled as the spatula clattered against the grill. Slowly, she lifted her eyes. And then she saw him. Michael. Her chest tightened. Memories flooded back. Late nights studying together in the library, shared burgers on park benches, laughing until their sides hurt, and then the bitter day when life had torn them apart. Michael wasn't just anyone. He was the boy who had been her everything in high school. The boy from the foster system who had nothing but dreams and determination. The boy who used to promise her that one day, he would make it big, and they would never go hungry again. But somewhere along the way, he had vanished from her world. Elena blinked, trying to steady herself. "Michael," she whispered, disbelief dripping from her tone. He smiled faintly, his eyes soft. "Yeah, it's been a while." But Elena wasn't smiling. Her heart carried too much weight, resentment, pain, abandonment. He had left when she needed him most. Michael had indeed disappeared, but not by choice. After high school, he had earned a rare scholarship and left town, while Elena stayed behind to care for her sick father. He had tried writing letters, sending emails, calling her, but her father, protective and bitter, never passed on the messages. By the time Michael returned for her, she was gone, swallowed by struggles he couldn't even imagine. He had thrown himself into building his life, working 3 jobs, launching a startup, risking everything until his company rose to success. Now he was one of the youngest CEOs in the city. But despite all the money, all the awards, all the luxury, he had always carried an ache, an empty place shaped like Elena. And now, standing in front of her food truck, he saw how much hardship had etched lines into her face. He saw the exhaustion in her eyes, but also the fire of survival that had always drawn him to her. "Why are you here?" Elena asked, her voice flat, guarded. "Because I never stopped looking for you," he replied softly. She didn't want to believe him. She had been disappointed too many times. So she ignored him, took his order mechanically, and handed him a sandwich wrapped in foil. He paid in cash, left a large tip she didn't notice, and stepped aside. But Michael didn't leave. Over the next week, he returned every morning. He stood in line like everyone else, ordered the same sandwich, and asked the same gentle question, "Still remember me?" At first, Elena tried to avoid talking. She convinced herself he pitied her, that he was only here to soothe his guilty conscience. But slowly, cracks formed in her armor. She began to remember the boy he once was, not the CEO standing in front of her now. One rainy afternoon, when business was slow, Michael stayed after his order and asked if she'd take a break. Against her better judgment, Elena agreed. They sat together under the small awning of her truck, rain dripping from the edges. For the first time in years, they talked. She told him about her father's death, the debts, the nights she went hungry while trying to keep her truck running. He listened, truly listened, without once glancing at his phone. Then he shared his journey, how he had slept in shelters while studying, how his company was born from desperation, how he had chased success but never found peace without her. Tears blurred Alina's eyes. She wanted to hate him, but her heart betrayed her. She still remembered the boy who once swore to protect her. Michael didn't just talk. Quietly, without her knowing, he began helping her food truck. He pulled strings to get her better permits, sent subtle waves of customers her way, and even ordered catering for his company just to boost her income. But he never bragged, never told her what he was doing. One evening, Alina's food truck broke down. She sat on the curb, head in her hands, thinking it was the end of her dream. But then Michael appeared, offering his hand. "You don't have to do this alone anymore," he said. This time, she didn't push him away. Their journey wasn't simple. Alina battled pride, afraid of being seen as someone who needed rescuing. Michael battled guilt, afraid she would never truly forgive him. But together, they rebuilt what life had broken. Slowly, Alina's food truck grew into something bigger. With Michael's business expertise and her talent for cooking, they opened a small cafe, a dream she never thought possible. Customers poured in, not just for the food but for the warmth and resilience Alina carried in her story. And through it all, Michael stood by her, not as a millionaire CEO, but as the boy she once loved, the boy who whispered every morning, "Still remember me." Until the day she finally answered with tears in her eyes, "I never forgot."